So I am thrilled to be here today with our great partners from the University of Northern Iowa. And here today is Dr. Elaine Eshbaugh, who is the Davis Professor of Gerontology there, and graduate student Elsie Eslissing. Did I get that right?
Close enough, yeah.
Yeah, great. And they run together the Dem Sim House, they call it Dementia Simulation House on the UNI campus. And we are so excited to have you as partners, and I'm excited to talk to you and have you share about the great success you've done with the Dem Sim House and how you're reaching students on campus and community-wide efforts and dementia-friendly efforts. You've just really done a fantastic job. So I'll let you start, Elaine, and tell us a little bit about how it all got started.
Yeah, so I had done a uh transportable simulation for dementia years ago, and it was really impactful, and it was on a very, very small scale where people brought equipment to us, and there were sort the cards and count the change. So I was really fascinated by that. And with my study on dementia, one of the things that I really try to focus on is that when we understand other people better, we are kinder. And if we can help people to understand those who are living with dementia, we will just be kinder and be able to set up a more dementia friendly community. So that being said, I one of my favorite areas of study is dementia and the senses, because everything you know about this world, you know from your five senses. So what happens when your brain is struggling to interpret all of this information that's coming in through those five senses? What happens to you and what happens to the way you see the world? And I think that's really important in how we interact with people who are living with dementia. So at the university, I wanted a permanent space to do that simulation. And I will be honest with you, like I did not dream big enough on this, because I was hoping that maybe I could get them to give me like two or three residence hall rooms. And I was hoping we could make that into something. But actually what happened is much better. Is the university had a house, and it used to be married student housing and international student housing. And then they just used it as a rental, and they decided they didn't want to rent it out anymore. And I was given the opportunity to make that into our dementia simulation house. And the house part is very important to us because 4 out of 5 people with dementia do live at home and live in the community. And yes, we do obviously need nursing homes, memory care, assisted living, but most people are only moving into those options at the end of their journey. And there's a lot that happens before. And one of our goals is to help people stay in their homes a little bit longer, by having a caregiver and a community that is more understanding and can help set them up to be successful. So we opened the house in February 2022. So we've done this about 2 years, and it's actually grown into not just the simulation, but an outreach program. And for me, it's turned into an opportunity to educate UNI students. And I don't mean just the students that come through the house and do the simulation. I mean the students that are on the dementia simulation team and work with me. So at any given time, we have about 4 undergraduate students, 2 graduate students, and they are the heart and soul of what we do at the house. And they're the people who make it run. And the leadership opportunities that they've been given at the house are really above and beyond, I think, the opportunities they might get elsewhere, just because at the house, we have so many parts and they're moving so fast that we just need students to step in and do things. And like Elsie said, she may have been pushed out of her comfort zone, but it's like we are not actually funded by the university. We're funded by private donation. So it's not like we hire a bunch of people and we have a bunch of people to do social media and marketing and those things.
Right.
It's like that all really falls on our students. So that's how we got to where we are now.
What a great story. And Elsie, would you agree when you get pushed out of your comfort zone, that's when you really start learning? I mean, I'm one of those that, hey, just step in there, just go do it. And that's when you're gonna have these great aha moments. And be able to put all your, your studies together with what you're doing there. So tell me a little bit about what you're learning, Elsie, and what impact it's had on you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, as far as like being pushed out of my comfort zone goes, so before this year, I was terrified of like public speaking, and I'm still not the biggest fan of it. But like when I was in undergrad, we had to take this like speech class or general ed requirement. And for this class, I purposefully took the online one so that way I wouldn't have to give speeches in front of my class and I could just give my speeches at home in front of my family. So going from that and then coming to the house where like we talk in front of people all the day, all the time when they come to see us every day, but then also with like our dementia friends trainings, like I've gotten to the point where I can talk in front of like 50 people and it's not a big deal. And before the beginning of this semester, Elaine asked me if I'd be able to do like one or two trainings a month. And I
Mhm.
think right now I'm working with another person who works at the house, but we're doing like one or two trainings a week. So that's awesome. It just feels good that I've really like stepped out of my comfort zone in that way. And like just looking back at where I came from before this year, I can just see like so much growth in my confidence even. But then also like I've just learned more about dementia. I think one thing we do really well at the house is representing dementia as um like your brain is broken, you know? So like so many people come to us and before they come they're just thinking that dementia is about memory loss. And then we really represent like no, that's not all that's going on. The whole brain is affected, the brain is shrinking, all of these things might be going on. And I think one, it helps people understand every area that's impacted, but also like Elaine said, it makes people kinder because they understand that this person isn't just trying to be difficult. They're not trying to cause problems. They have something going on inside their brain, and we can't always see it. But when they have actually experienced it, they kind of have a better outlook on what's going on.
Yeah, and tying that into the home and just the, strengthening that message that most people living with dementia are living at home. And so this is what they're going through. You've got the home environment for people to go through. So impactful for students, for families, for, the community to see the the forgotten ones, really. I mean, so many people who are living with this and care partners who are dealing with this, and they're silent. We don't see them out in the community. So very, very impactful. Tell me a little bit more about how many students you may not know exactly how many students, but I know you're impacting a lot of students on the campus, not just from gerontology
Yeah.
disciplines.
Yeah. So, in total, we've had about 2,000 people come through, and about 25 to 30% of those are students. So I don't do math in my head very well. But so I would say we've maybe had around 500, 600 students at this point. So those are students who actually, I'm not just including the University of Northern Iowa. We do have students who come from other universities. We have a social work class who came down from a private college. We've had pharmacy students from the University of Iowa. So we've had a lot of students as well from a college of nursing
Mhm.
that will send students, and a program for OT, occupational therapy. What am I forgetting, Elsie? Anybody else?
None that I can think of.
Yeah.
Interior
So
design students.
yes, and
Yeah.
we love our interior design students, and they get to come once a year. They came a couple weeks ago, and we love doing the simulation. And then we ask them, what could we do to make this home more dementia friendly? And they have great ideas. So, gerontology is not a huge major. I wish it were, but it's just not. So, when gerontology majors are actually a very, very tiny percentage of the students that come through. But we have a lot of family service students. We have social work. We have public health. and some students come, maybe their professor would offer extra credit for coming, but we do have a lot of students who are like, well, I just kind of heard about this and my grandma has this, and they really don't know what they're getting into, but they want to learn and they kind of want to take a plunge. And so that's been really cool to connect with students in so many different majors and explain how, obviously dementia may impact you in your personal life, but you know, dementia impacts people in a lot of different fields of study. It's very interdisciplinary. So we have nursing club coming, I think, Elsie, maybe next week. We have the social work association at UNI coming in a couple weeks. So we also do have those student groups, coming through, and that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't know how it will impact these students down the road, as maybe some of them have not been impacted yet personally, but they will be, or they haven't been tied their current major to what it could be if they go down, down the road. They see aging services as a career path, which of course,
Right.
wouldn't that be great? Because we need so many of them to choose aging services in public health, etc. So yeah, you're touching people that you don't maybe know right what the impact is now, but it will have an even greater impact down the road. Absolutely. Terrific example of what you've done. How about the leadership of the university? Have they gone through?
So our president, Mark Nook, he went through, I don't know if it's like the first week or so. And it's kind of funny because I do know that he talks about the house a lot, because people will say things like, oh, I was out in the community at this event and the president spoke and he mentioned the DemSim house. Or and we're very fortunate that our university, we're not as, we're a state school, but we're not as big as Iowa or Iowa State. And you hear more about Iowa and Iowa State than you do about us. But one of the things that we really do try to focus on is experiential learning. And I think we are in a great position with experiential learning, in order to kind of show what our university is, our university is all about.
Yeah, you can't get more experiential than the DemSim house, right?
Yeah, throw them in there.
Exactly. So you have been huge part of the dementia friendly movement in Iowa, and just so many collaborations there. Talk a little bit about that. We have so many connections, so much growth that has happened in Iowa with building Dementia Live program partners who have come and visited you, and your connection with the Area Agency on Aging and just the whole Dementia Friends movement. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate. One of the alumni of our program, Megan Cooker Zimmerman, she was a double major in gerontology and social work when she was at UNI. And she was involved in so many things, and I got to know her really, really well. She helped me actually plan a conference in 2019. And we didn't realize it at the time, but that conference ended up being, we both think, like a really pivotal point, because there was some interest in this. I think we called it like building dementia friendly communities. And there was some interest in this from the city of Waterloo, which actually UNI is in Cedar Falls, and Cedar Falls jumped on later, but we had Waterloo becoming a dementia friendly community. This conference was how Megan first connected with the Area Agency on Aging, that eventually hired her and then promoted her to the state level, and running the programs all over the state. So, I think in terms of the dementia friends and dementia friendly programs, maybe my greatest role in that was probably having Megan as a student. And then with her going out in the field, she has done a tremendous job. We have over 9,000 dementia friends in Iowa right now.
Yeah, it is amazing work that you're doing there. Really a model for others to see. And I always say it's about collaboration, connecting, just having the conversation with people, because part of Dementia Friendly Fort Worth here, that I've been involved with since its inception in 2017. It just, it's obvious that the more people you talk to about what you're doing, the more connections you're going to make, and those connections are going to lead to other connections, and that's a domino effect. That's just how this is. That's how this movement is. Is getting started and gaining steam. Would you not agree?
I agree. And actually I would like, Elsie, why don't you talk about your field trips with Danelle?
Yeah. Okay. So Danelle is our other person who works at the house that I've been doing a lot of dementia friends trainings with. And so what we've been doing is we've been just going out in the community, and I call them field trips, but we're just going to different businesses and just like offering this free dementia friends training to them. Honestly, we haven't gotten a lot of response from the community unless like you said, someone else that they know has already been talking to the business about it, and then they're more receptive to us. So I think you're right on, Pam, that the way to really get things going is to have more and more people comfortable with talking about dementia and making a difference in the community. And then people tend to understand why it's so important for them to undergo the dementia friends training. But yeah, so we've done so far this semester, we've done dementia friends at 2 churches. We have a hair salon coming up. We really want to get a restaurant by the end of the semester, but restaurants are kind of hard. But so it's just cool to see when they are receptive, how many people come. I think our last one was at a church, and it was in the middle of a blizzard, and we still had 17 people there. So that was just really cool to see. Yeah.
You are definitely getting your speaking training in. It's so exciting.
Well, and I have to say, a while back, Elsie and I were going to do a presentation on, it wasn't a dementia friends, it was just something we had created just for this conference. And I said, hey, Elsie, do we need to meet in advance to talk about doing this presentation? Because I'd made this PowerPoint. She's like, nah, we're fine. And
That's
we were.
That's
We're
confidence. I love it.
fine.
Do you run some of the empowerment sessions after they go through the experience and then you get together and talk? Do you
Like, yeah, like our
facilitate those?
debriefing.
I
Yes.
mean, that is gold right there for learning how to manage a group discussion, and you're talking in front of a small group. So you're getting hands-on training right there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and especially now we just were talking about this on Monday. We're trying to like change our debriefing to more of like a conversational piece instead of more of like a lecture where we're just talking to people. And we had a couple sims yesterday, and I think that definitely works as far as like helping people retain information. And so we were kind of asking them to problem solve as we went through. So like, for example, we used like color contrast. If someone's having a hard time in the bathroom because of color contrast issues, what can you do? How can you problem solve? And I think that's a really good way to get people to really start thinking about it during the session so they remember it later. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and the more you do, the more you learn to be flexible with the group you have and what they need, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
exactly.
your goal is to really be a problem solver, but also to bring out their emotions after they've gone through the experience, and then have them be able to share that. So it's a great experience. You
yeah.
mentioned, oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
oh, I was just going to say a couple things. We've been doing this for 2 years now. And, um, you know, uh, we started out, it was myself, Megan Zimmerman was there. And then we had a couple students who wanted to volunteer. And, it was like with the format of the house. And, we kind of, came up with like our system. And then we came up with, when we would do the debriefing, how we would talk about certain things. And what's been really fun over the last 2 years is I have seen my students from assisting and observing and being part of all of this. We have kind of just morphed into like some different patterns that work better than our original patterns over time. And then it always seems like, maybe, I think, Elsie, if you agree, it always seems like there's one thing we're kind of like, hey, let's focus on this right now, or let's try to talk more about this or less about this, or how do we handle this? Like, it's always like, there's always some like improvement point for us, I think. And right now I think I've told my students this, it's like when they're in on the debriefing, they know so much about dementia. And I think, and I do the same thing, we are so excited to tell these people everything we think they need to know about dementia. But then sometimes we feel like we have to get through all of this information and we realize that we're going into kind of like TED Talk or lecture format, and we want to maintain that conversation. So we're working on some strategies, and obviously that's really easy with some groups. But then you've got other groups who are a little bit more, they're holding back a little bit or they're shut down. So we're talking about strategies for that.
Yeah, it is a great, it's continuous learning for sure, because every debrief or empowerment session is going to be different, because you've got a different group dynamic, different questions. And so that is, I kind of look at it as like a mini support group. You've got a little tiny amount of time to make a great impact, right? And to bring those people together for impactful discussions and to walk out with some great learning tools. I mean, you want to have something that they leave with beyond the aha moment. And so it takes some training and takes some just patience and continuing to share with each other's, hey, this worked for us, and it worked for me, maybe you should try it. Let's talk about the empowerment tools that we have. What is your feedback on it?
Yeah, so you have done a great job providing us with resources to give individuals and families, and also resources for us to learn from in terms of the topics that you're covering on those empowerment tools, and handouts. Like, we can't say enough good things about those. We are always printing more. We can't keep them in stock. Also, it's really good. We use them as a tool sometimes when we're debriefing and we have someone who maybe keeps going back to something and we need to kind of like move forward in the conversation. We can always say, hey, before you leave, we have something we want to give you and have a conversation with you, maybe individually, and to kind of move the discussion along, knowing that there's going to be a resource for them later on, and we're not just like leaving them behind, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really the intention of the empowerment tools, is that dementia is so complex and there's so many issues, but that, especially if it's a family, if there's one or two specific things that they are really challenged with at that moment, we have an empowerment tool to give them for that one thing,
Right.
one or two things, and without overwhelming them, we just focus on what they need the most at that moment. So as I said before in our discussion when we started, we base those empowerment tool topics on what our program partners tell us that they want the topics on, and then we create those. So it's really, everything comes from you, and you're out in the field every day doing Dementia Live and talking to the people who are, expressing their needs. And that's how all of this has developed. So thank you for that feedback.
No,
And
thank you for providing that opportunity for us to empower families and caregivers.
absolutely. Well, we're called program partners because I think it is a partnership. It's our mission to really change how people are looking at dementia, really building that empathy out there. And it's because of you out in the world doing it that it makes an impact. So great job. Great hearing from you, Elsie, on the work you're doing and the impact you're making and how it's helping you. I mean,
Thank you.
yeah, it's a win-win, I think.
Yeah, it really is.
And I'll just end by saying, have you talked to anybody else who's going to start DemSim houses anywhere?
I have not, as we don't know anyone else who has a full house devoted to this. And I
Yeah.
will say, Pam, it is definitely not a fancy house. Nor do we want a
That's
fancy
okay.
house.
Yeah,
It was kind of a funny story. I never thought I'd be on this side, but when I said, yes, we want this house, this is a perfect house because it's just a Midwestern ranch with,
perfect.
kind of crappy carpet and,
Yeah,
it was just perfect. And,
yeah,
they said, okay, well, we can't let you in for a few months because we need to make it ADA accessible. And I said, no, no, don't make it ADA accessible. Which I never thought I'd be on that side of an argument, but I thought, your typical home in Northeast Iowa is not ADA accessible. And I want people to do simulation in a space that is typical of a home that you would go into.
yeah,
So it was kind of funny. I fought that battle a little bit, not to make it ADA accessible. But we do know people who have they have a living space that's more like an apartment. But I don't know of anybody else who is able to use a freestanding house. And I will say, that is not to say that we are better than other simulations, because one of the things I'm really appreciative of is we talked about Jessica Fairbanks earlier, and she's close, she's about an hour away, but she's portable.
yeah,
So we have kind of a policy. We don't take our equipment on the road. Our equipment stays in the house. If we're going to do a simulation, it's going to be in the house. We don't have plans to change that. So sometimes I'll get an email and people will want me to, oh, we want to do a simulation at our assisted living, can you come? And I always say no, but please contact Jessica. She has that advantage. So it's like, I feel like the experience you get from Jessica is sometimes able to meet more people because she
right,
will take it directly to them, and
right.
she has that opportunity to meet people where they're at. For us, if you're unable to make the effort to get to our house, we can't help you. We don't work with you. So that's one of the reasons that, I think people doing this in different ways is really useful.
Yeah, yeah,
People doing this where, they could travel to a conference and do it, or do it at a booth. I think that's great, but that's not what we're doing.
yeah. Well, and that's what makes it unique and a rich experience. And as you said, a reminder, we are living in homes, and the majority of people with dementia, more and more in the coming years, are going to be at home. And this is their environment. They don't have ramps. They don't have things that would make it easier for them. But another huge learning experience for people, and an eye opener of the fact that people, as the symptoms of dementia progress, they need those things. Caregivers need to understand they can make their houses more dementia friendly, but that's not what the reality is now. So, well, if it wasn't for your inspiration and so many things coming together, and the university having this, we would probably never have connected and partnered. But I'm so grateful that we are.
So am
You're
I,
terrific.
Pam.
Yeah, you're just doing a terrific job. And I still say I'm going to get up there, and it
Please
looks
come
like I
see
am going to
us.
be coming up to Iowa in June. So you are definitely going to be on the list. So
Okay,
yes,
we
we
have
will.
we have good snacks too. We always have snacks.
Perfect. That makes it
Like
even
lots of snacks, lots of
lots of
variety of
snacks.
snacks.
Yeah, that's how you get the students in, right? With
Yes.
food.
Mhm.
Well, thank you both. It has been a pleasure to meet you, Elsie, and to talk to you again, Elaine. And so grateful for all you're doing, and for our partnership. And thanks for sharing this. It helps others to understand the work that you're doing and the work that we're doing together. So thank you again. Appreciate
Thank
it so much.
you.
And we will hopefully see you in June.
That would be great.
Okay. All right. Have a great day. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, fam.